welcome to this video, round 5 and the final round of the Zurich Chess Challenge. Yeah, this is a really quick tournament, 5 rounds. It feels like it has just begun and now it's ending after 5 rounds. Let's look at the games. The situation before this final round is that Carlsen is leading with 3.5 out of 4. Followed by Aronian with 3 out of 4, both fantastic results. And both tournament leaders are playing with black today. Aronian with black against Caruana and Carlsen playing black against Anand. So both with a difficult task with the black pieces. And the third game is Nakamura against Gelfand. Two players certainly want to forget the tournament rather quickly. Nakamura had an excellent first half of the tournament. It's pretty much exactly up to about round move 30 against the reigning world champion, when he had a completely winning position against Carlsen and blundered it to a loss even. It could have been a brilliant tournament for the American, but so it's the way it went. It just was. It was a real letdown. After losing against Carlsen, he even lost against Aronian following day. So now he's on -1 even. And Gelfand, he also had a bad tournament. Let's see what happens. Nakamura e4. And Gelfand is sticking to his guns. He has prepared the Sveshnikov for the World Championship match, and he's aiming for that constantly, but people very rarely play d4 against him. Knight c3, it's Nakamura's choice. And that's a good move if you want to avoid the Sveshnikov. And at the same time, you don't want to play bishop b5. There are two main anti-Sveshnikov moves. This one, Rossolimo, or knight c3. And knight c3 still keeps the option open to play d4. If black plays a move like e6, for example, you still can transpose to the open Sicilian, while at the same time avoiding the Sveshnikov. Yeah, why is it avoiding the Sveshnikov? Yeah, well, knight f6 is a move. If you go now d4, you have it again. So what is White's idea? The point is that after knight f6 here, White has, in fact, he has more than one interesting move. The main argument against this knight f6 is bishop b5, actually. This line is believed to be somewhat better for White. It's not entirely clear, it's a complicated matter, but White usually accepts this line. One point being that after knight d4, e5 is possible with very sharp play. This can be recommended for White players. So what are Sveshnikov players doing here? Mostly they play what Gelfand played, e5. Yeah, this is also in the spirit of the Sveshnikov, ignoring the d5 square, but on the other hand establishing very strong control over d4 and in general having a solid foothold in the center. This line could be very easily predicted by Nakamura by choosing e4. It was rather likely to have this position, and to be honest, I think, just my personal opinion, that he was aiming for this line to get a very safe position and well, not to risk much. If Gelfand is doing something stupid, maybe play, otherwise just stay very solid. Bishop c4, very logical, and bishop e7. Yeah, this is meant to control g5. If black would go here, you need to be aware that knight g5 is a very embarrassing move. This is controlling g5, d3, and now knight f6 is possible as knight g5 can be answered with castles. However, knight d2 is played. Yeah, this is a known line and a known maneuver. The knight on f3 is not so well placed. What White is trying to do is to use it on e3 to control d5 better, or sometimes on g3, but normally to e3. It's all about the d5 square. Yeah, black plays d6, knight f1, and now bishop to g4. Yeah, this is a recent idea, attacking the queen and provoking the move f3. f3 is not necessarily a nice move to make. White is weakening the dark squares a lot, and he forfeits some options that he would have without the move, like queen f3, for example, at some stage. Yeah, and white, if he does not want to play f3, what are you playing? Yeah, it only leaves the move queen d2. This makes a somewhat weird impression, but this is not a big problem. This queen position can be corrected. On the other hand, I really don't believe that this is something particularly great for white. Black certainly is okay here. He played knight d7. This is a useful regrouping. The knight is supposed to go to b6, and by freeing this bishop, you, at the right moment, allow bishop g5. This is especially valid if white moves the queen at some point. I mean, the queen is at the moment controlling this square, supported by the bishop, but of course it cannot stay there forever, and once the queen moves, there is bishop g5 coming. This also applies after knight d5, bishop e6, knight e3. Now the bishop is moved to g5. And this is also clear that the knight on f1 cannot stay there forever. It was always destined to go to e3, so here we go, and bishop g5. This is very similar to a game of Gelfand's from the Tata Steel tournament against Wesley So, where he lost rather quickly. I think this game is a slight improvement on move 9. In the So game he played knight b6, and here played bishop e6, so this is maybe a small refinement. Bishop g5 as mentioned, and now white played c3. Yeah, it's hard to get along without this move. It controls important squares, and it, if possible, allows a place for the bishop. Yeah, black plays castles and queen d1. So white corrects this queen position after all. I'm not really impressed with the opening play by white. I mean, I think Nakamura really didn't want to do so much in this game, to be honest. In general, I don't think that this line should promise white much. Black is just very solid. The d5 square is something, but black, especially if you have solved the issue of this slightly passive bishop, black has no problems at all. Knight b6, trading a piece off of d5. And again taking on e6. Yeah, this capture on e6 is certainly debatable, as you strengthen, or let's say you alter the pawn structure so that the e6 pawn is controlling d5 and f5. It's not what you really want to do, but what exactly is your alternative? I mean, black can even take on e3 and play d5. Yeah, if you, let's say, for example, white would castle, yeah, just a simple move. Black will take. If everything else fails, you do that. You take, play d5. Yeah, just in this position, only black can be better, to be honest, as d3 might be a slight weakness. Note that black took on b6 with the pawn. This is especially, oops, sorry. This is especially useful if you look at this type of structure, as c5 is securely protected. So white basically needs to react to this threat, taking and d5. White could play knight d5 just to show it, and then black takes. Yeah, plays knight e7, and you simply exchange everything off that's appearing on d5, and this is your equalizing strategy. Very easy play for black, no problems at all. Yeah, this is what Nakamura played, and queen b3 to attack this and attack this. Yeah. And black just reacts with the most active move and the best move, d5, just pushing. Yeah, this is not a very lucky piece here. It does not have any useful role. The problem is if you take here, then black can take on e3. So recapture. And now black can even consider to take with the queen. It's not bad at all. Attacking here. No, I have no problems. Black also can take with the pawn and have no problems whatsoever. I mean, isn't this a nice center? I think black can be very satisfied here. Yeah, that's the problem. You cannot really take without conceding, yeah, at least equality to black. He played castles and king h8. Yeah, getting out of this sensitive diagonal. Now white played a4, fixing on the light squares, which is a good idea. Yeah, and in this position now, Gelfand played knight a5, taking the queen. It went to b5, the most active move. And now knight c6. Okay. Tja. How does white play for an advantage here? It's very difficult. I mean, I'm sure that maybe Nakamura had or looked for some ways to continue the game. He always tries, even if he wants to play it safe by his standards. But it's very difficult to play something else than queen b3. What exactly is white's plan? Black is even better in the center. He controls more space. He went back and therefore accepted the draw, basically. Black also has a hard time to deviate. If yeah, what should black do if not knight a5? Yeah, you only have strange moves available, to be honest, if you want to cover here. Note that if let's say black plays a nothing move, just to show the point, then ed5 is something else. After taking, white can take here. This is a big difference with castles being played. So the d5 pawn is really threatened. And well, knight a5 draws the game. And do you really want to play a move like knight e7 instead? Let's have a look. Yeah, it's quite embarrassing. And white emerges with the better structure. Yeah, so we had one of those positions where it's difficult for both sides to avoid the draw. So in the game, after knight a5, and here exactly they agreed to a draw. Yeah, I guess both players didn't mind that too much. Just my personal opinion, because they both had at the end a bad tournament, and are probably glad that the classical part at least is over, where they can ditch further rating points. The event is not over. There is a rapid tournament tomorrow. So this is in general, I mean, this is also important for the players, but far more, I guess, lighthearted compared to this. Okay, let's go to the second game. Anand, Carlsen. Let's see what the world champion can do in this game against his predecessor. Yeah, bishop b5. The Rui, just like in the match, and Carlsen again asks the question, What are you going to do against this opening, the Berlin defense? Do you have any great idea? And what is Anand playing? D3, bishop c5, bishop c6 again. This rather simplistic line that, however, yesterday netted Carlsen a very nice win against Caruana with exactly this move, h3. Yeah, so that's the best that white can get in this opening. I understand why black players choosing this over and over again. This really feels like a walk in the park compared to many other defenses. Okay, Carlsen plays knight d7 and keeps the bishop. Yeah, this makes sense. He wants to keep the bishop pair and prepare a possible c5 later. Yeah, all this feels really logical and has been played before. Yeah, d4 by Anand. Yeah, this now leads the game into a structure typical of the exchange Rui takes, queen takes. Typical of the exchange Rui, where black has got 4 pawns against 3 on the queen side, but he's got the double pawn, which means that white basically is a pawn up on the king side, which is worth more than black's double pawn. On the other hand, black has got, of course, the bishop pair, and he's got very easy development. In the game, Carlsen played c5, queen d3, and now b6. Now we see black's development concept. He wants to put the bishop on b7 to increase the pressure on the pawn on e4, and he also has knight g6 available, maybe knight h4. So black has very easy piece play, and yeah, what is Anand doing now? He's simply taking on d6. Yo, okay, queen d6, queen d6, c d6, and rook d1. So yeah, white is giving up this pawn and attacks d6. So we got this. Yeah, and this, of course, this is the game. I'm just replaying it. This is, of course, a real snoozer. I mean, it's probably yeah, the dullest game that I've covered for quite a while. They just traded all pieces, which is in a way an understandable thing. I mean, Anand didn't have a great tournament. However, he won a game yesterday. It's not yeah, he certainly would have loved to win this here against Carlsen, but he obviously does not have anything against the Berlin, and he was just putting its pieces on normal squares and see what happens, and he had nothing, and then decided to just kill the game off. They continued for a while. It's not like they agreed to a draw immediately, but we're in the type of position where actually every decent player would get a draw against top level opposition. Yeah, even the knights are off. They shuffled for a while, and here draw agreed. Yeah, okay, not very exciting, but as I mentioned, in a way understandable. Carlsen already has accomplished a fantastic result with +3 out of 5 games against this opposition, and has gained some more rating points to put his rating to an all-time high. So what should he do? I mean, he just places this opening and says, okay, if you don't have anything, we'll draw. If you have some interesting try, we will get a fighting game. It's not my job as black to do something great here. So a very, very understandable approach. But this also means with the draw that Aronian with a win could actually equalize with Carlsen. So let's see what he did. Played black against Caruana, no easy task, of course. And Aronian is always playing e5, double king pawn. And we get to a Rui, which is not happening all the time in Caruana's games. He also plays the Scotch and some rarer lines from time to time. But here we get to an absolute main line. And in fact, this is all slightly surprising that Caruana is actually allowing the Marshal. But I think it's a good sign. White players, for a very long time, they try to get something in anti-Marshal lines like d3 or 5d3 and so on. This very slow lines, and it's not really endangering black too much. And I always thought that the truth, or if there is something in the opening, then it should be in the mainline Marshal. I'm not an expert on this opening, but I really don't believe that white can get anywhere with c3, d3, c3 of course, but not with d3, a3, h3, this kind of very slow stuff. It's certainly okay, you can do that, but you certainly not get an advantage. Okay, d5, the Marshal, which is Aronian's main weapon, but it also means that as paradoxical as it sounds, that it's very likely that he will have problems to win the game. It's simply that the Marshal leads to, at first look, to very sharp positions, but they are so heavily analyzed that it's usually steered towards positions where black has very little winning chances. We'll see some of that in the game. Here, Caruana played d3. As far as I know, this is the modern main line here, not d4 anymore, as they played in former times. This kind of line is the old main line of the Marshal. d3 is more popular nowadays. Bishop d6, rook e1, and bishop f5. Yeah, black's compensation in the Marshal is based on his good development, and yeah, white's sometimes clumsy pieces. They are still in the corner. It takes a while until they are really participating, and black is very quick with pushing pieces towards the king side. Played queen f3 here, white. Queen h4, attacking the sensitive h2 square. Yeah, queen f5. You always need to check this.
Check.
And now something on the e file. Yeah, and this leads to disaster. Black is just winning with an attack. So white cannot take. He must play g3. Queen to h3. Now this queen is protecting f5. Yeah, and white now needs to get his stuff here developed, I mean, very quickly. So he plays bishop e3 and gives up the d3 square and pawn, sorry. Black took it and knight d2. So what has happened in the last couple of moves? White has returned his extra pawn, but in the meantime he gains some time for his development and maybe even is able to centralize this knight. Another point is that white at some point might take on d5 and establish a good bishop on d4. We see after queen f5, bishop d4. This is a new move according to my database, at least. Some Marshal experts might say that, well, this was played in a correspondence game and here and there. This is very likely, actually. The Marshal is so heavily analyzed that the normal sources like my mega database here is probably insufficient to really assess what is the history behind those moves. Rook e8 and a4. yeah, this is very standard. White's idea here is that black's pawns are somewhat advanced and therefore also slightly weak. It's playing for very small nuances, and we see that after rook, first h6, I'm sorry, king g2, king f8. I thought, my notes, I read my notes wrong. King f8,
check,
the rook trade here, and also this and this. And this transformation is fairly typical of the marshal. And the reason why quite often the marshal leads into endgames that are very difficult to win for black. In fact, quite often it leads to endgames where black is a pawn down but has compensation with the bishops. It's not exactly a great result, I think, in the opening for Aronian. He can at best hope for a draw. I mean, he has certainly justified hopes to reach this draw, but it's not much fun, and White can try for ages to win. He's got those two pawns as targets, and what is very nice, he's got a position with well-defined outposts for his pieces. The nice bishop on d4, always covered by the pawn, and the knight can be regrouped to e3, attacking d5. It's I think it was very difficult to avoid this endgame. If we scroll back a couple of moves, it is difficult to suggest something else for black here. You could, you can choose other, let's say other transformations of the position. You can, for example, here, if you want to avoid this capture, you could take, check, for example. But this is helping White. I mean, there's knight e5 maybe in the position, or there are other things that that are problematic here. Sometimes it's AB, and rook a6. Let's say black is playing a nothing move. Let's say here. Yeah, here's even bishop e5 a problem. Getting those exchanged also would help White enormously. Yeah, it's slightly uncomfortable, but it's hard for me without any theoretical knowledge to assess the exact position. What check. I know is that, or I'm pretty sure about, is that this is a very inconvenient endgame. It's I think in many cases black will draw, but it's not much fun to play. And this type of position is actually the reason why I never bothered to study the marshal attack. It's in lots of lines, if White cooperates, black gets very nice real attacking play, which is very attractive to study. But if White knows what he's doing, you quite often get this type of endgame, which is, to be honest, just a bit depressing. It's not very, it's not fun to play, and yeah, I don't know, I don't like it, but it's something that you get in the marshal. It's not avoidable really. Let's see, bishop e7, knight f1, and knight e3. Yeah, black certainly did well to exchange at least one of the pawns. Rook a5. Yeah, d5 will be gone. The question is how to defend after the loss of the pawn. I can put some more moves on the board, and it's taken. What I think is that Aronian's next maneuver is not really great, but this is very difficult, a very difficult type of position to analyze, because if you play this in a game, you see White's forces slowly crawling towards you. White is making slow but steady progress, and it's very difficult to find a clear drawing setup. It's almost impossible to do, because white is very well coordinated. They all protect each other, all pieces, and you don't have a clear drawing idea. I mean, what would be great to exchange the dark squared bishop against the knight to get opposite colored bishops, but this is not easy to accomplish. What Aronian is doing is he puts the bishop on c1, and I think that this might be a mistake. Might be. I was thinking that maybe it's better to keep it on this diagonal, just retreat it, and this bishop keeping on this diagonal, so that a knight on f5 might be captured at the right moment. Not sure what this right moment looks like. It does not look great. But what I was trying to get at, with this move bishop c1, he has the problem, just a couple of moves later, that this bishop can sometimes be exchanged against the bishop. This is happening. He played rook a8, g4, rook a2, king g3, all logical. And here, all of a sudden, we get to this position. I mean, maybe here was the point where he needed to drop the bishop back. I don't know. This is definitely a problem, because now, after this this check, bishop f2, the bishops are exchanged, and after the bishop trade, black is, I think, almost lost. I mean, this I'm pretty confident about, that black is in big trouble here. The knight and rook are very well coordinated. The c-pawn is dangerous, and white can even make more progress on the king side. This pawn structure is not helpful. This now is very, very nice technique by Caruana. King gets activated, and h5, fixing the structure. Black is never going to move any of those pawns. And now it's a question of slowly advancing the c-pawn and combining the c-pawn with threats against the king, with the combined attack of the knight and the rook. And he's playing this very nicely. Look at this. c4. This is a very nice move, and maybe something that Aronian didn't really appreciate. The nice thing is that if black now takes, knight b7 is winning. Very nice, attacking the rook, attacking the bishop, and if the rook is protecting the bishop, there's the fork. Very nice. So it needed to move, and it only has this terrible square. Rook c7 check, and knight e6. That's it. g7 is gone. So black is lost. He continued for a while, but it's basically hopeless. The combined attack here is too much. White is winning all the pawns. And at the end can organize this pawn roller up to g6. And here Aronian resigned. He has absolutely no defense against g7, rook f8. So how to assess this game? It's not so easy. It's somewhere, I think, and this makes it difficult for me to analyze. This is almost a theoretical question of opening theory, because around here, I think black, I mean, I don't know the opening, but somewhere around here in the next couple of moves, I think black must do something else, because the rising endgame is so uncomfortable. I cannot believe that black should allow that. I mean, if you look at this type of endgame, I mean, this is just for some players this would be a wet dream. I mean, give Carlsen this position in each white game and he will reach 3000 rating probably. It's just very uncomfortable to play this position. So there must be some improvement, or black must find some improvement before that. But I'm not entirely sure where this might be. It does not feel like black should be in trouble here. So I don't think that Caruana has refuted the martial attack. But it's hard for me to suggest something, unless I'm overestimating White's play in the end game. Maybe I'm doing that. It's possible. Lots of end games of this type, black relatively easily holds, but this looks ugly to me. And White has very nice piece coordination. So for me, it's a question of a possible improvement around here. And of course, in the end game, around here, maybe this bishop maneuver. This was certainly not a successful regrouping. But I don't really think that if you would stay passive like this, or generally stay on this diagonal, in the long run, it will be very problematic for black. White is just very well coordinated. You get the rook over here, g4, h5, possibly knight f5, and don't forget the passer here, the c-pawn. Very uncomfortable position. So what does this mean? Carlsen has won the tournament. No surprise there, but with Carlsen being on +3 and Aronian losing the last round, Carlsen has even won this thing with 1 point ahead of Aronian. Very convincing victory at the end. He had this very shaky game, of course, against Nakamura. Should not forget that. But he won 3 games. Don't forget the other wins, and those were very nice games. He beat Caruana very convincingly, for example. Very nice game, I thought. Almost perfectly played. So a good performance by the world champion overall. Yeah, tomorrow will be the final day of this event. A rapid event. Usually I don't cover rapid events, but I'll have a look through the games played tomorrow, and if there are some interesting moments, I might do a small video about that. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed the coverage of this tournament. I'm not 100% sure if there is some big event in February. If there isn't, the next, I think there is a tournament in Baden-Baden that I might do something about. But okay, what I'll certainly cover is the candidates, which will be in March. And this will, of course, be very, very interesting. Okay, thanks for watching.